Welcome back to Mindful Conversations, the talk show where we explore mental health with depth, heart, and honesty. I'm Lisa Ford, a clinical therapist, an improved supervisor, and entrepreneur here in the Laurel community.
Yes, welcome. My name is Shendi Ramli-Hernandez. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor and somatic experience practitioner. I own a private practice called Healing Gateway, also in Laurel, Maryland.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Erica Coleman, the certified psychiatric rehabilitation practitioner, also entrepreneur in the Laurel community. My agency is Embracing Tranquility Behavioral Healthcare, LLC. Welcome.
Okay, well, over the past episodes, we've tackled some powerful topics together, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. Each month, we curate a space for open dialogue, connection, and learning around mental health and overall wellness. But this month, we're turning the spotlight inward. So often we focus on strategies and stories that support our clients and communities. But today, we want you to get to know us a little bit better. How about that? We'll be sharing what inspired us to enter the mental health profession, the personal motivations that keep us doing this meaningful work every day, and how we take care of ourselves along the way. You'll also hear us discuss some of our therapeutic practices, daily rituals, and most importantly, what advice and recommendations we offer to others who may be seeking support, struggling with stigma, or simply looking for some small steps they can take to care for their mental health. We hope that by sharing our journeys, we not only give you a glimpse behind the scenes, but also inspire you to reflect on your own motivations, your self-care practices, and the resources you might turn to if you or someone you love ever needs support. Because wellness is not just what we do, it's who we are and how we show up for ourselves and for each and every one every single day. So settle in, grab your tea or coffee, and join us for an honest, thoughtful, and maybe even fun conversation as we explore the heart of why we do what we do. To get us started, let's begin with some reflections.
Yes. When you say to do what we do, why we do what we do, I cannot help but remembering the moment when I started studying psychology. That was not the initial intention. When I came to the United States in 1989, the plan was for me to get a bachelor degree in business administration. And I lost interest. I was not interested. I fell asleep in the courses, wake up on an F, and wondering why was that? Why I was not interested with this. And then I realized, I was not interested in the productivity in human experience. I was more interested in the story behind human experience,
Yeah, I agree. It definitely wasn't something that I planned to do. I enjoy working with people. I went to school for criminal justice initially. Like I didn't even think about, I want to help them with their mental health, and ended up noticing like within a correction setting, a lot of our residents were on psychotropic meds for their mental health or behavioral health concerns. And it was like, how come nobody's focusing on that? Like, let's teach these kids how to do conflict resolution. Let's teach them how to talk to each other. Let's teach them about self-esteem. So that kind of started a snowball effect to turn into going back to school for psychology and becoming a practitioner of rehabilitation. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. Pretty interesting, because I think I started as a nurse, and I have siblings that are nurses. And I took a psychology course, and I had a great professor, and that was my impetus and how I just started to be in the field, and then also having a family member with mental health.
It's so funny, like we talk about what it brought us into it, right? But there are different techniques that we use that can help us to use with our clients or, different people in the community. Like, how do you decide between what approach or what techniques that you use with your clients? So for me, I kind of meet people where they are and identify like what will work best with them. Some people you can say, hey, let's go do a mindful walk exercise as we talk about different ways that we can manage your negative symptoms, right? And then that way I'm showing them at that time what we can do practically whenever you're feeling elevated or, something like that. Do you guys have similar approaches, or what techniques do you use?
To me, I approach things with curiosity. I remember my friend asked me, right? It was just like, so why do you want to be a therapist? And I told them, because I am selfish. I know it sounds funny, right? But it's just like I'm selfish. Because I'm curious about the resilience of human experience. And that's how I approach therapy. I become inquisitive about their story, but not only about the story, the experience behind it, the body experience behind it, because I'm also a somatic experience, and then as I become inquisitive about their experience, I guide them to gain clarity. So it is really about together. The experience is about me and the client together deepening the understanding of empathy, insight, and even witnessing their transformations.
That's really excellent. I think I would say from more therapeutic and theory based. I usually start with the assessment, right? And like you're saying, you ask a lot of questions and you try to meet the patient or the client where they're at, so being client centered. But based on the assessment, hearing their story, some of the things that are their goals they want to work on, I kind of use that to help me decide what approaches I actually pursue with each client. So having their voice, using my clinical assessment skills, understanding their story are kind of all of the things that I use to make my decision about what approach is next. Okay, so we did talk a lot about just, what are our approaches, right? How do we decide what intervention to use? Can you guys think of some simple strategies or activities that you get your clients to use? Some of the times when I'm meeting with my clients, I generally talk a lot about just deep breathing. I talk many times about exercise, being more active, getting up, standing, stretching, yoga. So being more physically active and creating some rituals and practices that they can do every day. If it's getting up, if it's reading your Bible, if you like to do devotions, if you like to pray, whatever it is, try to be very consistent in that practice.
So yeah, I agree, Lisa. I use a lot of those different, strategies. Every month I send out, self-care calendars, like allowing people to pick a activity each day. As long as you're putting something into practice each day, one of them could be, taking a warm bath with candles lit, or one of them could be going for a walk for 15 minutes. For me personally, I believe repetition is real. So I do start my day off with my morning devotion. I say my prayer. I do my deep breathing exercises because I need to make sure that I'm in a relaxed, calm state as I go throughout my day. We all have so many nuances that somebody could have pulled out in front of you in traffic. I need to make sure that I handle that with grace and not with what I want to say on my face, So like I try to make sure that I practice what I preach, and showing them like these little self-care practices will help you just with daily things that come our way, right?
Yeah. And to me, it's just the self-care practice is really about minutes to minutes practice, even hour to hours. So I'm being mindful in regard to how I set my schedule. So I'm not going to see clients 7 in a row, for instance. And so I'm seeing a certain amount, and then I take a break. And during that break, that's what I did, like you said, like taking a walk, a really just brief mindfulness practice, just being present, moving my body, stretching, because it is between that sessions help me to just, help me. How am I going to be at the end of that sessions? That's what I do. And of course, I'm being mindful in regard to how many days I work in a week. What do I do toward the end? I love reading books. Now, the thing is, this was a while back, I used to love going to bookstores, just read. I know I have not done that, but it doesn't mean I stop reading as well, So yeah, so that's my way of just like, taking care of myself. And also, actually plants. I love taking care of my plants. And that's my way of, take a break. Be present at this moment.
I found a new bookstore at the National Harbor. I'll tell you about it later.
Oh yes,
wow.
we need to talk
Interesting.
that.
I kind of find it hard to read books. I love books, but so I find myself listening to books.
Okay.
Not everybody can do it, right? Because it's hard to stay
Right.
focused. But, each of us have our own practices that we do to try to maintain care of ourselves as well as ways to stay focused and continue to care for our clients, because sometimes some of the events or sessions can be traumatic for even for us.
Yes. Yes.
So, because we are therapists and we find that sometimes people have misconceptions about therapy. What are some common misconceptions that you've experienced? I know that for me, many times people feel like therapy is they just want to know about my business. Or, one of the misconceptions are sometimes I don't have any problems. I don't need to see a therapist. My situation isn't bad enough. So I found that sometimes the people that I end up meeting, the reason why they haven't come, or even people in my social circle, is because of that. What about you guys? Have you had any misconceptions that have come across you?
That will fix them.
Mm.
And that we are the ones that do the work. And in fact, it is you. We help lead you, like we said earlier, about walking alongside you. We help you to identify different things, identify different things that have happened in your life, that continue to happen, things that you can change. But mainly they think, oh, I'm just like a doctor. I'm going to come, I'm going to give you a magic pill and you're going to be A-okay. So, that is what people think this work is, and it doesn't work fast enough. So unfortunately, what about you, Shendi?
Yeah, it is. It's just like, I have an image. I'm a very visual person. It's almost like they will come and they will, take off their backpack and put it in front of me and say, work on this.
Yeah.
Right. And I just like, I don't work that way.
Yeah. Nobody does. Nobody does. Nobody does.
So it's just that I have the answer and the wisdom to their struggles. And I try to tell them, I don't have the answer. You are an expert in your life experience. Now I can be the expert on how you come across, but you are the expert on your own life experience.
That is great response, right? And so when we meet people like this, or that's just in our life, not even just in our practices, but in our lives, what small steps do you think that we can use or help people to use that if they're not ready for therapy? Like what daily things or reminders or little small steps that can get them ready to put them in a position to actually change? We have that thinking process, that contemplative stage versus the action stage. What little small steps do you guys suggest for someone who's not quite ready for therapy? Me, I always lead with breathing. Always, whether I'm going into a meeting, whether I'm going into a sacred space, I always lead with breathing. So I think breathing helps to regulate. Remember, we talked about at previous times about monitoring on a watch your stress level. And with being able to change your breathing patterns can help you to prepare to be ready for anything, right? So I think that would be one of the small practical things that I would tell someone as they prepare on their journey in their therapeutic process, is to start with your breathing first. And that may help you to think clearer, and then you'll be open to working with a different professional. What do you guys think? I don't know, am I off?
No, I agree because I had an expert tell me one day that you can't deep breathe and be angry at the same time. Those two sensations are hard to have. So when you could be angry, then you start deep breathing, and it's almost an instant calming. So definitely deep breathing, I would concur. I think one of the other things I would say is slow down, right? Deep breathing helps you slow down. Sometimes our minds are racing. We're so worried about where we're trying to go, why we can't get there, what's holding us back. Sometimes just be present in what's happening today. You miss out on what's going on when you're so busy worried about what happened or where you're going. So try to slow down and just stay present. Think about and enjoy your family that you're sitting with, eating dinner with, right? Enjoy your friends that you're socializing with, not worrying about what you got to do at work, what you got to do that night, what you're going to do tomorrow, how do you prepare for tomorrow. Try to remain present, and that'll help you. Any thoughts?
Yes, Lisa, when you talk about, breathing, managing, helping the client managing their state during therapy is very helpful. And at the same times, I feel like our job as therapists, there is reward and challenges, and that there's a balance between the reward and the challenges. One of the challenges can be the emotional weight, from listening to people struggle. I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear about their ways in coping for trauma for years, right? And sometimes because progress is not really linear, there are setbacks as they're trying to overcome what is happening, as they try to learn the coping methods. And not only that, there is an insurance issue, administrative issue, which actually took away from our time to really do therapy, right? So now, those are some challenges, but also there is the rewards, and that rewards can be kind of quiet and profound. And to me, this is my own personal experience. It is that the reward is really in human connection itself. Because when I'm doing therapy, I am invited into clients' life during the moment when they're really vulnerable, and they trust me to cope with their feeling. They trust me with their story. They trust me with their vulnerability. And such trust is really profound. It's really profound because it's not easy to do so. And in the midst of it, as they develop trust, in the midst of it, they, there's a ripple effect, as they trust develop, a ripple effect of, oh yeah, I can be better. I can do better. And you see the progress, right? So yeah, it's the balance of challenge and rewards. It's an intricate dance,
So I would say my experience is a little bit different because of me being a practitioner. Our role is different, right? So I base heavily on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So my goal is to put people in a position that they are ready to work on their traumas in therapy. But how can you do that if I don't have a place to stay, if I don't have food to eat,
Yes.
if my kids don't have clothes? So those are some of the challenges that I experience on that base level. And then the reward is having someone walk into their place with their keys that I help them to navigate that process, and seeing them grow in those areas, seeing their children now flourish and breaking those generational curses of poverty or different unjust, acts. Those are the rewards that I get in my practice. It looks a little bit different so that they're now able to tackle and handle issues in therapy and dealing with the traumas that they've experienced. So, we're hand in hand, because how can I meet those needs and understand that if I still have all these other things, my lights are going to get shut off. Or somebody texts me, oh, guess what? I just got approved for $1,000 grant for my light bill. Thank you so much with that application. So those are the rewards that I get to see, and seeing someone grow. What do you like? Is it different for you, Lisa? Or
Well, I think it's a combination of what you guys are both saying. I think for you, it's very tangible, right? Housing, food, clothing, right? Ours is a little bit more, it's less tangible, it's more clinical, it's more, I guess, apparatus, almost as if you're like you cannot touch it, because trauma is, a lot of times I tell my clients there's big T, little t. Everybody's been through a traumatic experience, but it's a lot of times how we are coping with that experience, what support systems we have around us in that experience that helps us kind of feel better and heal. Okay. So I would say some of the challenges, I would say for me is when I work with my clients, is having them recognize that, like you said, you can bring a bookcase, put it in front of you, and I'm supposed to fix it or fill it, right? No, I actually have them and make them understand that the work is a lot of times outside of the room, right? We can talk about things that, may be bothering them. I can give them strategies, and we can practice in the therapy room. But sometimes the challenge is having them go outside of the therapy room and apply it in their day-to-day lives. Because then there's really the challenge for them, right? They're faced with the adversities. They're faced with the conflicts with their family members. They're faced with, how do I deal with my boss? It was easy when I was in the therapy room when we practiced. So some of the challenges for me is having them recognize that you have to work outside the room, right? The reward is when they do work outside the room, right? And they come back and they share the successes because you were right. I was able to navigate the situation with my boss. I had the situation with my partner, with my children. So seeing the glow on their faces, the
Yes.
happiness to actually see me and trust me that what I was actually suggesting worked.
Yes.
So that's probably one of my biggest rewards.
Yes, yes. And you know what you share, what I'm hearing from both of you is really, it's not only the outcome, right? It is a shared experience, a shared experience that pretty much where there is growth, there is trust, and there is transformations.
Right. Absolutely.
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 Wow.
Great way of saying that, Shendi.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, yes, it is definitely transformations. But sometimes we have some of our clients that they may not recognize that their stress levels are at the point where they may need to come into
Yes.
therapy. So, how do we sometimes to help them understand the difference between everyday stress and when you need to see a professional? And so what I've actually tried to do is it may not be in a therapy room, maybe in a community setting. I may see them at a community event. I may see people in my church, or I may see people in my family who are talking about work, stressful events, and having them, okay, try this exercise, try this work, try this, sometimes it's diet related. So giving different strategies of things they can do. But then when, helping them talk about what the stressors are and, gracefully and gradually suggesting that, maybe a therapeutic conversation would be helpful. Somebody who's not going to judge you, somebody who's going to be confidential, and somebody who's outside of your family system and can be more objective. So, I try to help them based on just their life experiences and ways that maybe this stress is a little bit more, more difficult because you're late for work, you're having a hard time, with your marriage, you're separated. So all these different things may be stressful, but now they're actually impacting your day-to-day lives. So this is probably where you need to try to get professional help.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the word communities, and I'm wondering also, sometimes I'm wondering what are some unique mental health challenges in certain communities, because the way I define community is the people I work with. Again, I'm in Laurel and I have a private practice. So I work in my private practice, I work with the diverse clients, really people of colors as well as the white communities. And I also work with domestic violence survivors in DC who are Asians or Asian American Pacific Islanders community. So there's this diverse communities that I'm working on. And, as I work with them over the years, I've noticed that some of the challenges is really the number one is actually access to care. This is evident actually after the pandemic when there is a high demand of mental health therapists even mental health services, but not enough therapists. And the cost for mental health, sometimes it can be very costly. If you don't have insurance, wow, that can be challenges as well, and the stigma still, until today, there is always a stigma about mental health. Like one of my clients said, I have anxiety, so it means I'm, that is part of my weakness. And I try to let them know, no, anxiety is actually in moderation is good because it tells you what you need to do differently.
I agree. I think whenever we talk about challenges in communities, community is a relative term. We all have different communities. If I was a part of the LGBTQ community, my my issues and concerns may look different than someone is an Asian Islander, what the main priority. We all have, like you said, the same access to healthcare, the cost of those things. I think, yes, those are still tangible amongst all the communities, but every community may focus on something a little bit differently because of their experiences, right? Like, so I think it's pretty cool. I enjoy that there are, it's vast. I mean, we can't answer them all. We would be here all day.
It is.
Yeah.
I think too, like just the challenges for some of our clients, is just the technology. I mean, you talk about access to service. Telehealth is supposed to make it more accessible, but to some people it's not, because they can't necessarily access the computers or use the computers. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of unique challenges.
Yeah.
So I that's one thing that I would like to see different in the future of healthcare, is that there is an equal responsibility for the digital divide, for access to healthcare, that it's free to those who may not have insurance, or there's a special insurance that may be able to pay for those for those services. It's like somewhat we're in, somewhat we're not, but the future will be that everybody normalizes mental health as a part of your every single day life. There's nothing wrong with trying to make that better. There's nothing wrong with developing tools and techniques to make that better, because then that also will fuel in your physical health and keep and expand the longevity of your life if we focus on building healthy individuals.
Yeah. It is about raising awareness as well, right? Raising awareness. And when you say normalize, it's about raising awareness about what mental health is and what mental health is not, So, yeah.
Thank you guys for this. So thank you, our community, for being a part of this conversation. Remember, healing is a journey. Every small step that you take matters. Be kind to your mind, listen to your body, and permit yourself time to grow. We invite you to leave comments, questions, and we would love for you to be a part of our conversation and community. Remember, community is essential to our social and emotional well-being. Follow us at Mindful Convo 24 on Instagram, and email any questions or comments to mindfulconversations24@gmail.com. Have a wonderful day on purpose.